Hi, I'm Ben Wesner. For my personal improvement project this term, I chose communicating constructively. Joanne Connors described constructive communication as using communication in order to build or strengthen connections and understanding between people. Now that rings so true because at the beginning of this term, I found myself in conversations or arguments or conflicts that were negatively impacting my relationship with my friends and family. I found myself walking away at the end of them asking, what things could I have done differently? Well, this book, Interplay, had a lot of answers and ideas of things that I could do in order to enhance my communication and make it better during times of conflict. So the first one, I've picked out quite a few things out of the book that directly pertain to my project. The first one was paraphrasing. Things that have helped me so much. Paraphrasing is relaying the information in your own words as you understood it as what the speaker said. This not only helps with the listener's understanding, but it also helps with the speaker to stay on the same subject. The second one is a perception check. It's describing someone else's actions, telling them a couple interpretations of what you think that could mean, and then asking them if that's true. So, one example is if I told a friend, because you haven't texted me today, I sense you're frustrated with me. Is that true? And they might say, yes, I'm frustrated with you. Or, and then it leads to a resolution. Or they might say, no, I've just been very busy today. And it can avoid so much miscommunication instead of passively aggressively holding on to, oh, they didn't text me today, they must be annoyed, and making assumptions without any backing. The third one is using I statements. I statements are in place of you statements, and you statements sound very offensive and can lead to negative communication. An example of an I statement is if I said to someone, you are very annoying today, as opposed to, I feel annoyed by some of the things that you've done today. And I statements really help with conflict resolution, and it's also called direct expression of feeling when you say, when I say, I feel frustrated that you did this, or as opposed to, you did this, therefore you're in the wrong. So it's coming from a place of humility and problem solving. So our fourth one is quite similar, except it's a word not to use, which is the word it. If I say the word it defers responsibility if you're starting a sentence. So, and it implies that it's out of your control. So, a good example of this is one of my fellow classmates in a painting class. She dropped a mirror on the floor and it shattered. And when the teacher came up and asked her what happened, she said, it fell. Instead of saying, I accidentally dropped it, I'm sorry, she chose to defer responsibility by saying it fell. And that's one thing that I've noticed the book helping me with so much is that I'm learning from others' strengths and weaknesses in the communication field. So, not using it statements can also build up and strengthen a relationship and understanding and communication. The next one is very broad. It's listening. The importance of listening, going into a conversation, knowing what your priorities are and what this person needs of you. So being willing to listen to people, being patient can be such a big advantage to communicating constructively. Whether you're task-orientated, which is solving a problem efficiently in a short time, relationship-orientated, focus more on your relationship with the person you're speaking with, being analytical, which is gathering all the details and then making a judgment at the end of it, or being critical, which is paying attention to how somebody's saying something. And sometimes the best and easiest way for you to listen is not what the person needs, but quite often usually what the other person needs is just someone to be there and listen to what they have to say. Our final point is the most important, and it's conflict resolution. The book that's helped me the most in terms of conflict resolution is actually the textbook and things by Dr. John Savage. He does a communication workshop all across the country, and he took a lot of things that you can find in the book, but he took them all and simplified them into a workshop, and I've taken it twice now over the years, and a lot of it pertains, and a lot of it's actually in the book, and about communication, constructive communication, and conflict resolution. So here are some that I got out of Dr. John Savage's material. The first one is direct expression of feeling. Very similar and tied in with I statements, but direct expression of feeling is more about being vulnerable and coming from a place of humility. So if I'm humble enough to say exactly how I feel, it can help with communication and help with any argument or miscommunication that's happened. The next one is called fogging, which is agreeing with the truth, if there is any, and the criticism you receive. If I show up to a meeting late and they say, you're a terrible person, you're always late, my reply using fogging could be, it is true, I've been late the past 2 times. And what that's doing is you're letting the listener know that you're not afraid to take responsibility, but you're not going to accept them saying things that aren't true about you. The next one is called negative inquiry. Now, negative inquiry is questions that help resolve an issue that someone brings to you. So if somebody comes and tells me that I'm a very annoying person, I might say, what are some things that I've done recently to annoy you? And that can just help because you're demonstrating to the person that you're willing to help with the conflict. So, the next part is differences in my communication throughout the term. Now, one of the biggest things that I learned early on was that learning how to communicate constructively can be very easy in a textbook, but very hard to apply in difficult situations. And I also found that using that in difficult situations is when you need it the most. So using all of these and remembering to use them all in the hardest of conversations has proven also to be the most helpful and makes things really stick. Learning to stop and think. Now, whenever I find myself in a difficult conversation or a heated discussion, I have found it a lot easier to stop and think, and one of the things I ask myself is, how do I best communicate this? Because I know so much head knowledge of communicating constructively from the books I've read, but when it comes to actually applying it, sometimes emotions can get in the way, and so learning to stop and take a deep breath and just continue going, coming from a place wanting to resolve with a mutual helpful resolution. So coming from a place of humility, ultimately, and being more empathetic because of everything I've learned, especially when it comes to worldviews, cultures, differences in genders, in where people are from. Knowing all that has helped me so much to be more patient and be more empathetic. As you expand your worldview, you expand your knowledge of how things work, and not understanding someone can lead to frustration and miscommunication, but knowing that people think differently, people from different places, just in general, knowing that there are differences can help so much and avoid miscommunication overall. So, through this term, I've learned a lot about the root of communication and what healthy communication should look like, and also tools to apply to communicate constructively. So I look forward to continuing to learn about communication from people, from life, and from books, and applying that to my friends and family.